The information provided on this podcast is intended to be educational and informational only and is not considered to be formal legal advice. The listener should not take or refrain from taking action based on its content. Any listener in need of legal opinion upon which to rely in decision-making should consider formally engaging an attorney to review relevant facts in detail and examine the pertinent law as it applies to those facts.
Hi, this is Mike Carswell, Director of Scranton Road Promotional Marketing, and you're listening to Dream Chasers, Interviews with the Future.
Around 13 years ago, iPhone came out, but a year into it, I started looking into wanting to build an app for myself. And so I come up with the idea, I reach out to folks and started designing a product, and then I release it. And one morning when I woke up, I realized that the app was featured by Apple, and then I was getting a ton of downloads.
Right now, while it's fresh in your mind, go to raisemasters.com. That's raisemasters.com. On that website, you'll find that we have an upcoming webinar that will teach you 3 capital raising strategies for free. No, this is not some kind of watered down presentation that's no good. These are groundbreaking, new age capital raising strategies that are meant to be learned in the order in which we give them to you. And we sincerely believe that if you take the time to learn these strategies and implement what is taught, the next 90 days of your life will be fantastic. Again, it's free. There are no tricks to this presentation, by the way. Go to raisemasters.com and register while the getting's good.
This is Dream Chasers, episode 168 with Boon Chew.
Hey guys, hi Grandma. This is Adam Carswell, and welcome to Dream Chasers, Interviews with the Future. On Dream Chasers, we bring next level talent to the light. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's get straight to the interview. And we're good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another amazing, as always, episode of Dream Chasers, Interviews with the Future. I'm your host, Adam Carswell. This is episode 168 now, and we are joined by the man, the myth, the legend himself for multiple reasons, which we'll get into here, Boon Chew. Now, ladies and gentlemen, been doing this show for, it's crazy. I started in 2017, so we're closing on like the 4 or 5 year mark now. I've never had someone, thankfully, I say in advance, rebook, because sometimes people cancel and you never hear from them again or whatever. I've never had someone rebook their interview with me so many times. And I'm so happy we did now too, since just getting to know him a little bit before we press record here today. I've got, as I mentioned, Boon Chew here with us, and he'll be able to kind of explain the reason for rebooking, because he's in a different part of the world than me right now. But huge shout out to our mutual friend, Fletcher Wheaton, who I guess Fletcher helped you acquire some real estate in Mexico, if I'm getting it accurate here. Boon, is that how you guys first got connected?
Well, we were on a scouting trip down in Mexico, looking at the property from the same developer. That's how we met each other. Yeah.
Got it. And so, yeah, honestly, Boon, probably about 6 months ago, Fletcher introduced us via email. He's like, Adam, I got someone who I think would be a really cool interview for your show. Fletcher is someone who I'd consider, I definitely take his word for it. And so now here we are, and I'm like, yes, thank you. So Boon, could you kind of just share with my listeners and viewers a bit about your background, where you're from, what you're working on now? We're going to get into it. If you guys saw, the title of the episode is How to Build an App That Changes the World. So we got a lot on the way for you here. But yeah, if you could just kind of tell your story, how you got to where you're at today, Boon, that'd be really helpful.
Sure. Before I talk about my background, so I have a little running nose today, so hope you don't mind. And thank you so much for letting me reschedule my meeting so many times.
Absolutely.
So I was born in Malaysia. So growing up, I was already, sort of raised in a multicultural environment. We had to learn 3 languages growing up, and then multiple dialects, and so I'm very used to growing up in an environment that is very different, like not a homogeneous type of environment. So there's a lot of racism going on in my country where I grew up. And
oh really?
So
yeah.
you have to deal with that, like from a very young age.
It's interesting because you wouldn't you would think, we say racism, people forget it doesn't have to be people that maybe have a different skin tone. I'm thinking Malaysia,
Yeah.
everyone's a rare, basically, even my skin tone, your skin tone, like not
Yeah.
much of a variance, right? So it's like inner
Yeah.
racism.
Right. Right. It's in a way maybe not racism towards each other, but more like racial discriminations. Like the government, would give a lot of preferential treatment towards, like Malays, and so that's kind of a well-known thing. I'm not even saying anything that is new. But yeah, so I grew up in Malaysia, and then I went to the US for school, and then I stayed. I started working in Seattle in a game company, creating PC and Xbox games. And after that, I continued to create online games for a lot of gaming studios and brand like advertising agencies and things like that. So I've created a lot of content for Hasbro, Nintendo, Nickelodeon, those brands. Along the way, I've also
I was
worked
gonna say it's pretty cool that you very casually say, oh, Hasbro, Nickelodeon, that's a big deal for for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. And so a little bit about my natural inclination as well. I like to draw, right? But from an Asian background, like Asian parents would never let you go into art or design or anything like that, because they're worried about the kids' future. I don't want to be starving on the street, right? Going into art and stuff like that. At least to Asian families, the proper sort of professions to get into is engineers, doctors, lawyers, and things like that. But so I was, from a very young age, I'd like to draw a lot. But so that's why if you look at my paths, a lot of it combined art, like design and logic. I like math and engineering as well. So that helps a lot. So game programming is one of those things that it's really one of the hardest things you can do in development, because it combines so many different disciplines like math, physics, and software. So anyway, so after working at the game company, I went and worked for Microsoft and Amazon. That's where I got my sort of real engineering discipline from. And after Microsoft and Amazon, I also, as I mentioned, worked on a lot of sort of online gaming solutions, like for all the brands through gaming studios, to the game studios and advertising agencies. That's where I really got sort of a lot of experience from building consumer-based products. Because with games, you really want to have a immersive experience. With online as well, you can't really build something that, if you want to really have people re-engage users, you have to have good content, kind of like your show, right? The principle is kind of the same. Like, in order for you to drive people to come back to consume more sort of content from you, you need to build that trust and that confidence that you're creating and delivering a high quality product or content. So around 12 years ago, iPhone came out, actually 13 years ago. But a year into it, I started looking into wanting to build an app for myself. And so I, come up with the idea. I reached out to folks and started designing a product, and then I released it. And one morning when I woke up, I realized that the app was featured by Apple, and then I was getting a ton of downloads. At the time, I was charging.
Well, hold on. That sounds like because you shared this with me before the interview too. It sounds like that was the moment that everything changed, right?
Yeah,
we have different epiphanies throughout our lives, but before we continue on with the story, let's zone in on like that 2 to 3 month period there. What was the app that you were building, and what was it like when you woke up the next day, like, whoa, what's going on?
You talk as if you knew the whole thing. So so I was still working at the time for an advertising agency up in Vancouver, Canada. So doing a lot of things for brands as well, like EA and all that.
Which is so cool. I mean, I don't know if any of our listeners are, but I mean, I know some of our listeners are gamers, and so again, you mentioned EA, Xbox. Was it Microsoft or PC gaming? You mentioned. I don't know if you're are you a Counter-Strike OG or something like that?
Yeah, actually, Counter-Strike was actually released. I think Counter-Strike and Half-Life, they were actually released by the company that I built, like that I was part of. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, we were playing a lot of that. I actually created a map, for Half-Life. So
one of the maps. Did you? Well, wait. I'm gonna get too far off track here. Just real quick. You created a map for Half-Life, meaning like was it just you that made it, or was it like you and a team?
No. I mean, just for fun, like me and my coworkers, we actually built an office map. So we were literally like fighting, like we were actually like in the offices, but in half life. So we'd be like running around shooting each other, but in the office setting. So yeah.
Nice.
So
back to that
anyway,
moment.
so I was trying to figure out what to build, and so I said, I'm trying to come up with ideas, so might as well build an idea organizer, right? And I sort of like an idea notepad kind of thing. So I hired a graphic designer, a mobile app designer, and then I started, ideating on the whole thing, build the actual entire product, put it up online, and start charging that for 99 cents. Because at the time, all of these things are not known. Like, should we charge? Should we not charge money? And all that stuff. We have to ask questions like that. And one of the things that we learned about is that if you don't charge, you have a lot of people that are not really meant to use the app, download the app. So you might get very mixed reviews, right? It's almost like you doing your thing as well. You might be selling certain content. And for those people who actually pay for the content, they want it. They're going to get something out of it.
That's a fundamental thing to keep in mind for anything when you put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah. Because they have a vested interest. They pay for it. They're going to be, they have a higher likelihood of going through it, right? Like using it. If you release something for free, then you're going to get a mix of people. Some people are just trying it, out of curiosity and things like that. So I charged at the time I decided to charge it because I know it has real users. And so the app was being featured by, magazines and all that. At the time, you don't have as many apps as you have now. So you can still get a relatively sort of good exposure from your work if it is unique enough. And so my thing was actually looking quite like the first version of Evernote at the time. You have a way to enter the note via audio, or text or video. So anyway, so one day I got up and I was getting sales here and there, like a few downloads here and there. But one morning I got up and I looked at my dashboard, and I was looking at it. I was like, wow, I'm getting thousands of dollars of whatever I did downloads at the time. I thought I was dreaming, right? I wasn't sure if I was awake at the time, and then I realized that no, it's for real. And then so I realized that it was getting that because Apple featured it, and at the time back then, in order to get like a sort of marketing sort of effect on your product, is you gotta have be featured. You have to be featured by Apple. So long story short, after that, I was like, okay, this is what I really want to get into. I mean, it's not just the high of being able to sell, like get your content to so many people's hands, but the fact is that this medium itself is very addictive in that it's a small form factor, but you have to, like, everybody has a phone, right? And you can reach people so much more easily. It's just like, everyone is kind of a phone away from you, right?
Right.
You may not know who they are, but you can serve them because they have to have a phone. So this is almost like a good way to, regardless of what they do and who they are, that if you can build something, you can reach out, you can reach. So it's kind of it's a medium that, at the time I was like, wow, this thing is very powerful. I can actually reach people directly now, right? And so that's when I decided to go full time into this. So I built a company around it. I started building products, and the next product I built was like, what should I build? So again, all my ideas are kind of niche because I was like, and because I didn't have a lot of experience at the time building products. So it's like, I'm Chinese, and growing up learning Chinese is one of the hardest things to do. So then I built an app that allows people to lets people learn how to write Chinese characters by tracing through the character, each Chinese character. So like English, you have, like, I don't know how many letters, like 26, 25, like 26 letters. I don't remember the exact number, but in Chinese you have thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of letters. I didn't know that at the time when I was writing it, what I was getting into, right? But it was hard because I have to create the sort of the tracing order for a couple thousand characters. It was almost killing me. But after we released that, and we were getting downloads and stuff, and then again one day, Apple reached out and say, hey, we want to feature your app in our commercial, in an iPad commercial. And we were blown away again. I was like, wow. And so, and then they put in the commercial, we saw that, it was super exciting. And then they featured it a few more times on their website during holidays and things like that, because they want to promote iPad as a way to, learn, like as a learning tool.
Right.
So long story short, after that, we keep on building a few more products. One of the product we built is a kids game. We team up with, I literally call up a editorial cartoonist in San Diego, right? I like his work a lot. I was just looking at, because I like to draw, right? So I just started looking at cartoons. This guy is like a 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner in editorial cartoons. I call him up, I'm like, do you want to work together to create something? And so he ended up creating a lot of the hand-drawn, right, like rendering of a character. We call it Hungry Monster. You just feed the monster with food, right? It's for little kids to play with. So we did like stuff like that with a lot of like collaborating with really creative people. But at one point I started realizing this is not a really sustainable model, because at the time, building an app for people, you can only charge like a one-time fee. You cannot charge them for every version that you release. So there's no subscription at the time either. So then we're like, okay, we know how to build good apps. So how do we sort of get revenue from that knowledge? That's where we start pivoting to also offer assistance to companies to build their own apps, to execute their own apps. Now, our thing is unique because most of the agencies that are out there building apps for other people, they have never built an app themselves. So they have no idea of what, of the whole sort of process of what it takes to build an app, even the money that you put in, right? All that stuff. And so we started working with big brands like iHeartMedia, Discovery Channel, over time, and WeWork was part of one of our clients as well. And then gradually we started pivoting to work with a lot more with startup founders as well. And so one of the apps that we built 2 years ago was the first friendship and dating app for autism community. And every time I told people, they would be like, wow, this is literally one of the groups that you really need to serve, right? They need, they have difficulty like socializing, but nothing was like that out there. So we built that, and then we went on and built a few more, and we just nowadays our primary sort of people that we deal with are startup founders, and I love the space so much that we don't even deal with big companies that much anymore.
Yeah. Wow. I'm trying to think what to the lessons to unpack. I mean, you kind of nailed it there. It's a great quote. You said pretty much everyone has a phone. Therefore, as a creator, you have the opportunity to serve everyone that at least has a phone, which is a very powerful statement that I think many of us, including myself, I mean, hearing this story from you now is opening my mind in ways that I don't even think I'm going to fathom until I go back and listen to this interview. But so that's step number one is, hey, look, you can serve everyone because everyone has a phone. And then two, I mean, talk about like really identifying a need and then serving that need. As you mentioned, I think your first one was it converting basically the alphabet to Chinese characters, or was it the other way around? Which way?
Yeah, so the first one is for people to collect the ideas and organize the ideas, right? Kind of like an idea organizer. Yeah, and then the second one is the Chinese letters. Yeah.
So actually, so the first one, the idea one,
idea organizer,
yeah. Well, actually, both of those. I mean, are they still apps that people are downloading and using and paying for? And how do you are you still like the outright owner of those, or did you sell them to somebody? Like, what's that process?
Yeah, good question. So I actually stopped publishing Idea Organizer because at the time I was like, even I myself, I stopped using it because there are better alternatives out there. Evernote was one of them. And so I stopped creating that because I was charging at the time $2.99. I was like, no, I cannot be charging this anymore. And I don't really want to keep on spending time to improve it because again, there was not really, the app itself is pretty simple, even though, it was popular back when it came out. But as you know, with anything, when you have something good, you tend to have a lot of, I don't want to say copycat, but you have better products coming out, because they're trying to compete with you. And so at some point we decided that, hey, no, this is not our main focus anymore. It's very hard to build a one product company. You really have to have a very complete offering. And Evernote is one of the most on the surface, it looks like it's just like a note-taking app, but it's very complex because you have to deal with syncing between, multiple devices and things like that. So, and I see that as a very key thing we don't have that. And I also know that it's going to take quite a bit. And I definitely don't want to be building note-taking apps for, for the rest of my life. That's what I like. Okay, we're going to stop supporting that. The language app, we still have the phone version. We don't have the what do you call it? The version that we charge. So we have the phone version, but not the iPad version. The iPad version was the one that went into the commercial.
Commercial, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have that because again, with the language learning, it's kind of a niche as well, because we're only teaching people how to write characters, even though at one point we had that sort of vision that, hey, maybe anyone else can come to us and take it to other written languages like Hindi or Sanskrit or whatever, right? Different language. But again, that wasn't big enough for us. And I think this is one of the things that people can learn about. You can build something very useful, but you also want to look at the market size. Like how many people are actually going to be using it. The market size for learning how to trace the letters, just that alone, is not big. Maybe if you expand it to teaching them how to write, speak, how to write, how to read, that would be much more bigger. But I would say that the biggest market is actually learning English, not learning Chinese, at least right now.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. So yeah. So that's why we pivoted and we focus a lot more these days on building things with startup founders. But because when we work with startup founders, we also have a stake in their product because we work on cash equity basis. So in a way, it's like we never stop building because whatever we build for the founders, we are vested, right? We own equities in them. So yeah.
Wow. So now I want to shift gears. Again, I'm trying to figure out which direction, because there's so many angles we can take on this, but a lot of people out there, I think even if I think about my journey, at some point along the lines, I've been involved with someone who's building an app, and I can't remember exactly what it is for, but building an app is one thing. Building an app that actually works from a functionality perspective and people want to use it and people are going back to it, that's very difficult to accomplish. I mean, very, very difficult. There's so many people out there that are working on building an app that's going to get adoption. And I don't know what the numbers are. I'm sure it's got to be something like, less than 1% or 2% of apps created actually ever just continue to serve their audience. So what's an angle that a lot of people aren't thinking about that would be a good angle to go as far as creating an app? And I'm thinking like maybe even speak a little bit to my audience here. Someone who's an entrepreneur building a business, maybe where the app isn't the main focus of the business, but it would be a nice complement. How do you create an app that's a nice complement to your business? Or is that even worth looking into?
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking into because it's one of the things that most people have. Like, I mean, if you think about anything that anyone has, phone has the best penetration in terms of, like adoption, right? Like most people have I don't have a TV for a long time, but I have a phone throughout because phone is actually more powerful than the computer if you think about it, right? Computer, you might say that CPU is more powerful, but computer doesn't have an accelerometer. It doesn't have GPS. It doesn't have all these things. Phone, regardless, even though it's small, it's really one of the most powerful, equipment in the device in the world. Another thing is that phone is literally like an extension. I used to ask someone this question. I said, if I, either give you a phone with internet connection, obviously, or so you can choose between basically having 4 limbs versus having a phone, but you'd have to lose a limb. And 99% of the time, I would say 100% of the time, people would say I would lose a limb in order to have a phone with internet connection.
Dude, you guys, there's so many great quotes on this one so far.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, people literally would give up their limb to not lose, connections to the world, right? So, and that's powerful. When you have a device that is an extension where, the other thing, I sometimes make a joke about how, I don't know who said this first, but when you get up the first thing in the morning is you don't touch your spouse or your partner, you touch your phone first, right? Right. It's like, so this is like, this is like this is something that you get in touch with. So if you want to reach someone, I mean, this is literally the most ubiquitous device. And it's also dangerous as well, obviously, because people are so hooked on it. And that's why if you look at myself, I don't put my phone on next to my bed. I put it outside in the living room. I need to have some space as well. In fact, I know what the phone can do, because the phone can track so much about yourself that a lot of times people don't realize that, right? So I personally, I use things with care as well. So that part, I think, is a sort of balancing act. People have to understand that, because otherwise you could be a prey to someone else's, misusing the technology. But in terms of your question, in terms of what entrepreneurs should think about, because the phone itself is really like a hammer in a way. Like, I mean, it's a general tool, but you can use it for very specific things, right? And one of the things that people have to look at least from as a framework, is that a B2B sort of offering I can do, or a B2C offering, right? So if you look at the things that I've built so far that have sunsetted, those are B2C. And B2C is actually quite hard to do. Not saying that it's, you can still do it, but you better make sure you have enough funds and enough time for it to be successful. And even if you become successful, doesn't mean you're going to be there the whole time. You can be top, or you can be outcompete. And so what I always tell people is that whatever you do, see if your idea has a enterprise focus as well. Meaning, can you make money from companies? Because consumers, first of all, it's very hard to make money from the consumers. You have to do a long tail model where you have to release to a lot of people, and then maybe or you build something that is highly specialized, and you get a small group of very passionate people. They have nowhere else to go to get your product, but from you. For example, medical professionals. Maybe you build something for medical professionals. There's nothing like that out there. They have to spend $100 to buy it from you. So when you have a small core group of people buying stuff for you, obviously you have to charge way more. Now, the leaning for the enterprise is that if you figure out a way to either charge, primarily create something that you get money from the companies itself, or that maybe you're serving the customers, but you have a way to tie in the companies to your offering, then I think it's worthwhile direction, because you have someone who knows that they can get value from your offering. That's why they're willing to pay you, right? Companies like you and I, right? Companies, we are willing to put money into, because we know you have to use money to make more money. So, so I would say that whatever people do, they should always think about the enterprise phase sort of angle of the idea.
Yeah, that's very helpful, because I think it's fun. It's fun to me. It's funny how fundamental a lot of these principles are, because I think back to part of my journey. I managed stores for Sherwin-Williams at one point in time, the paint company, and to your point, there's nothing like a commercial company coming in, like a company that knows they're coming in, they're buying 400 gallons of paint, this color, like that. Right. That's where we would make our money. We're not making our money from the average, mom and dad who are coming in to paint the one room in their house, over and over. Now, right. They would train us to obviously treat the DIY customers very intentionally, but at the end of the day, it's the other businesses that you want to be looking at and asking yourself, okay, is there a potential to do business here with other businesses, not just the consumer? So what's an example of someone who you're working with now, who again is maybe they've built this business that serves other businesses? Again, because I want to take this from the angle of like how to build an app that's going to complement your business instead of how to build a business based on an app. And so what are some businesses out there right now that either you're working with or you see an opportunity for them to take what they're doing and then also now create an app that helps facilitate the process?
Right. So I can actually talk about one that has very sort of tie-in with real estate. So I bought this property in Tulum. That's how I got to know Fletcher, and that's how I got introduced to you, from a developer called Tao, right, down in Mexico. So I approached the team, approached the CEO. I said, hey, you guys should have a mobile or a technology sort of angle to your offering. As I said, mobile and tech, you can really use that on everything. At the end of the day, at least in my framework, every company at the end of the day is a technology company, is a data company, right? Because you have to use data to better serve your customers, and you use technology to also, create more value. It's a way to deliver value to your customers. So technology, in a way, is a way to do things, in a better way to do things. You come up with better ways to do things. So obviously, technology has a lot of time with digital. That's how we think about it. A lot of technology these days are all digital based. But so I went to the developer, and then I told him, I said, you guys should have some, let's work together on something. So we brainstorm, we work, we come up with some ideas, and so one of the things that we right now working on together on is to create. So think about how we're buying property in a foreign country, right? One of the biggest pain point that we have is, first of all, when I ask people, like even the broker, like in New York, when they take me around looking at properties, I'm like, I got some properties outside. So how do you do it? Like, how do you buy? Like, they don't know. Like, if you think about the steps from knowing what properties are available outside the country to, which developer should we be contacting, and how do you do the scouting? None of that is, most of those stuff is not out there, right? So, so if you look at, even after let's just say after you bought a property in a foreign country, how do you manage that? How do you pay for utility bills? Right? How do you get it rented out? You need to hire a property manager. How do you find a property manager? And what happened if it's not good? So I spoke with the developer, and then we came up with this idea of creating sort of like, I don't have a name for it yet, but the whole idea is that you can pop up your phone, look at the properties that you have purchased outside the country, and you can see how much money it's making for you. And you can have literally the sort of backbone of the platform helps you manage a property for you automatically. All you have to do is just approve certain things that need to be repaired, and if you want to outfit your unit with furniture, you could do it. We are basically automating the whole thing right through this platform, all the way from handing over the unit to outfitting it to getting listing your property on Airbnb and VRBO and other places, and helping you drive income, revenue to your platform. That whole thing's all on your phone, right? And that's what we're working on right now. So if you think about it, their main business is developing properties. Their main business is not in this. But the fact is that we're tying this in so that this can actually drive more sales to them, because I would want to buy something where I know, because if you think about how they have created a blue ocean thing there, a blue ocean thing is that original, if they don't have this offering, they're just like any other developer, just creating a product, they sell it to you. But what we're doing here is expanding what they're offering to the after sale experience, which is, what do I do now once I have the unit?
Right.
Well, we have an app. You can pay for it. So it's not just a one-time payment. You continue to pay for it because they are providing that service of helping you list your properties, helping you bring it in. Because the whole point of me buying property outside is I want to generate income for it, right, from it. So that thing continues to happen after the purchase is done through the app, through the platform.
And that's why you want, I'm thinking now, that's why you want to look for B2B opportunities, because when you go B2B, that gives them an opportunity to then bridge the gap to C.
Exactly. And I don't even know how you ask all these good questions like in real time. I think so. At the end of the day, B2B is B2B to C, right? Because at one point in that chain, the B has to serve the C. So even if you have a B2B, eventually it trickles down to C. So this is a B2B to C. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, I've got I've even got some ideas now for when we're when we're done here. One thing that actually, so this is an interesting one. Maybe this is a little bit more personal, what I'm thinking. Podcasting, Facebook groups, just like, I mean, even if you want to get technical, like I run around in some tech circles. I know Telegram and Discord, and as we mentioned, Slack. These are all different ways that building community is very powerful. Are you working with anyone, or is there any projects out there that help people who have a voice, say like myself, like create a one-stop shop app for what we're doing? Because like, I know there's certain ways you can basically make your own podcasting app, but anytime I've ever seen that, it's been it's like everyone goes to either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, no matter how hard you try. Right. So I guess for someone building their own brand, one, is it really worth trying to make your own app in that regard, or should you kind of just stick with what's already out there?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because building an app is not cheap. Pretty expensive, actually. Well, I call it expensive, but if you put things in perspective, it's still cheap. Now, an app can cost anywhere from 20, 30 grand to all the way up to, infinity, right? But usually it ranges anywhere from 20 to 100 grand or 150 grand, depending on the complexity of the app. So now the question that you ask yourself is, can I get the money back, right? In some ways, right? Directly or indirectly. If you're building something for yourself, I would say the number one thing you want to ask yourself is that, because you have to acquire users, there's costs associated with that. So I would say people should start looking at, if I'm already doing something for our existing customers right now, can my app actually increase that? That can actually enhance their experience and that value delivery. If you can, then you're building an app that can be put to use right away. That could be generating value for you right away. Another thing is that, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a trainer, right? You're a fitness trainer. I'm training with you, but I can go to any trainer today. But if you have an app of your own, where you're using it to sort of, deliver some additional value to me through that, then the fact that I have data, let's just say you're looking at the data that I log from me running and stuff like that, and then you provide feedback to my fitness data, right? And that's your own app. So you already kind of locked me in a way that, because I'm committed to you, that's why my data is in your thing, in your platform. And the fact that is that you're also giving me not real time, but feedback on my things as well, my diet and all that stuff. What is the chance of me leaving you for another trainer? That person probably has to be really, really good, or they have to have different offerings. So in a way, you've created a blue ocean strategy for yourself. You created something where no one can compete with you because you have that offering. And the technology and mobile tech is one of the components where you can add into your offering and make that create sort of you go from competing with everybody else in the same space to creating your own space and creating with no one. Right. So that to me, it's so you have to think of it from that angle. If you can come up with something that can serve that purpose and make it so that your offering becomes a unique offering because of that added components, or maybe, additional benefits that comes from that, then it's definitely worthwhile to do it.
Yeah. The data, it's in the data, right? It's the data that you're able to provide to your consumers is what is going to be valuable. As you mentioned, the real estate one, being able to look at, again, the data, flip the certain switches, see how a property is performing, again, providing that data is where the real value lies. And I had another question here too about providing the data. What's the I know there's an app that's out there right now that's tied to as you mentioned, fitness, where it's like it's like a group fitness app too. I don't know if you're familiar with it. So you basically you and your friends can all track like who's burning the most calories, like that type of thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen similar apps like that.
It's
but
like
we actually spoke to someone that would want to build something like that, but a more challenge based, so you can actually challenge your friend. And then, but here's the thing. I mean, I got into ideating with founders all the time. So when I hear an idea, I have right away have other ideas. Like one idea I offered that founder in terms of creating, it's not just challenging, but you can get into a co-op mode where you can say, hey, me as a company, I can have sponsors. Again, enterprise facing, I have sponsors. And the sponsor is saying that if all of you, in different groups, right, different cohorts, you guys, whoever can reach 1,000 push-ups among your cohort. So now you're in corporate mode, or co-op mode, right? It's like, okay, maybe you're stronger than me, Adam, but I'm sure you can do like 50 push-ups. I can only do 20. But together, if we try to hit 1,000, right, for that daily goal, we can win something, or we can compete with other cohorts to win a prize. So now you turn something into instead of against one-on-one, you're kind of teaming up with your friends to work towards one goal, right? So that whole energy is different now. It's not a zero-sum game anymore. So things like that, you can have a different angle, and then it suddenly becomes a new form. Yeah,
gamification. There you go. Yeah. So like the principles of a good app, guys. B2B, if you can. Gamification, identifying, it sounds so simple, right? But identifying the need and then delivering that need, providing that service, And then also providing data points that for the, I mean, things are always changing, right? But if you can identify a data point that somebody isn't delivering to their customer or client, then zone in on whatever that data point may be. And I don't even know what ideas I have for you going forward here, man. But I just gotta say thank you for kind of opening my mind and I'd say our mind here on Dream Chasers to the power of phones. I think we all knew it, but it's just a really solid reminder. Also, I love how you, being like the app building phone guy, talk about how you put your phone in the other room when you go to sleep. I think that's very, very valuable because as consumers, guilty as charged right here, as consumers, we I don't know how do I want to put this. Most people listening to the show are not consumers unless you're listening to the show. Like when you're not listening to the show, you are producing something, right? We're mostly producers who do listen to this. So it's a good reminder for us producers to keep producing and not get sucked into the consumer space is what I'm trying to get at. So
yeah,
thank you.
no problem.
And yeah, so what's the best way if anyone, and thank you for you also gave a nice idea there from a price point and what to invest to make like a really good app. I think you said anywhere it can be as low as 20K to up to 150,000, depending on what you want to accomplish. That's really important to keep in mind here too. Cause again, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go build an app. And if it's more than 10 grand or whatever, they just give up. And it's kind of like, well, no wonder why it didn't work for you. You weren't ready to make the investment. So what's the best way that anyone tuned in can like follow up and get in touch with you, or, get on your mailing list or potentially work with you? I know you're busy. So what's the best way for anyone to get in touch with you?
Best way is to go to the website at tappolo.com, tapolo.com. There's a form where they can, put in a request if they have. I advise a lot of startup founders as well. So I'm happy to just jump on a call to tell them if the idea is good or bad or how to tweak it. Or email me at boon@tapolo.com. There'll be another way. The one thing that I want to throw out there is that don't look at the price tag to decide which, what solution to use. That's usually the worst thing to do. People will look at that and say, oh, this company charges me 5,000. That company charges me, 20,000. I'm going with the 5,000. No. It's you. There's so many things behind that price alone that you just don't see. And so that 5,000 could end up being more expensive than the 20,000. So that's something people have to watch out for.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being a great resource for the right and the truthful information. And thank you for going and buying some real estate in Mexico with Fletcher. I mean, that's where it started.
Thank you for having me here, and thank you for letting me reschedule so many times.
Yeah, you bet. And guys, we'll give a little marketing plug here to Fletcher as well. If you guys go to CaboKey, CABOKEY.com, you can reach him there. And then actually, I think you said you were looking. So there's another company that he works with, TAO Mexico, I believe.
Tao Mexico. Yeah.
If you guys do a Google search on TAO Mexico, Tao Mexico, you can check out some of their projects there. We've actually had Paulina Almeida on the show before as well. I know she works.
Oh, cool. Them, so. Yeah, I'm working with her right now. Yes.
Oh, hey, tell her that you were on Dream Chasers.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let her know. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, and then Boon, any parting words of wisdom for our viewers today?
Parting words of wisdom. I think it's I actually just wrote this on my LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn account. So I think start your 1,000-mile journey. I mean, a 1,000-mile journey starts with you taking the first step, right? So I think action bias, like being action bias, is super important. So you're gonna run into mistakes and stuff like that. But that would be my parting word is, take the first step, and go learn it, go do it. That's when things can happen.
I love it. I'm trying to find you on LinkedIn now too, as we're going through here, but I think I got you here. Either way, I'll follow up with you after we finish this recording. Thank you so much, man. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of Dream Chasers. I forgot at the beginning. I always say it, but don't worry, I didn't forget. Hi, Grandma. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Thank you for investing not only your time with us, but your focus. Really appreciate it. And guys, we'll catch you in the next episode. Remember, did I say this too? This was Boon Chew of Tapollo.com, by the way, who joined us. TAPPOLLO.com. Go look it up. Boon joined us today. Thank you one more time. And guys, remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level. Thank you once again for investing your most valuable resource with us here today, your time. If you enjoyed today's episode, please drop a 5-star rating and a review below. Take a screenshot of it and send it over to nextlevel@carswell.io. We have a present for you. We really appreciate you guys leaving those reviews because it really helps with the overall SEO and visibility of the show and allows us to continue to bring on high quality guests. So once again, thank you. And remember, take it to the next level.